We are continuing in the book of Proverbs. We're in chapter 15 and verse 12. And we will just begin with that verse, obviously. We need to. A scoffer does not love one who corrects him, nor will he go to the wise. Okay, this is very similar to things that we have seen before in just going up in verse 10, which it is in proximity of it and goes with it. Harsh discipline is for him who forsakes the way, and he who hates correction will die. Scoffer does not love the one who corrects him. He's not going to go to the wise. He's not going to do it. The fool does not want anything that the wise has to offer, because the wise is not going to validate what the fool has been doing. He's not going to make it legitimate whatsoever. It's going to come off as something else, and it's only going to confirm that what he does is foolish. So the fool is not going to go, a scoffer is not going to go to the one who corrects him. He's not going to go to the wise because he doesn't want to be corrected. But we already have the warning, and he who hates correction will die. It's that simple. And these are direct statements. These are assurances and warnings is what they are. And of course, as we have often spoke, you put them together. You put these things together. Each can stand on their own, and that's okay. Each can stand on their own. But if you get more of a total teaching from the book of Proverbs and then from the Bible itself, then you've got total teaching. You've got everything in it. Verse 13, a merry heart makes a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken. All right, now there's a large subject that actually is opened up in this, but we begin in the first part of this. A merry heart makes a cheerful countenance. It's an obvious show of emotion. We are emotional beings. We can show emotion. We're in the image of God. All right? God also has emotions. He's not emotionless. He has every emotion we have. Every emotion. Whether it's joy or whether it's sorrow, whether it is even regret, He has that. When did God show regret? Or it speaks of Him having regret. That'd be, Genesis chapter 6, with the world in that day. And I have a feeling He's got to be having the same kind of, but things have been, you have the cross has already done, Christ has done His job on the cross. And so we have absolute remission of sins today, but it's up to the individual to want that. But, all right, so a merry heart makes a cheerful countenance. In 17:22, Proverbs 17:22, a merry heart does good like medicine. But by sorrow, we come back to verse 13, but by sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken. In Job 17:1, Job says, my spirit is broken. My days are extinguished. The grave is ready for me. I think we can take what Job said and put it here with what Proverbs 15:13 is saying, and put them in the same category, put them in the same box. That the spirit is broken by sorrow of the heart. The spirit is broken. That this would be a sorrow that of someone who has come to a point, something in their life, like Job, who they're seeing the grave. They see that there's nothing left in this life at all, and that the next step is just the grave, and that perhaps even ready to go, perhaps even ready to just I'm done with this. Let me just step off into death. But the spirit is broken. Now, just that idea of spirit, just in thinking of the Spirit being spoken of in Proverbs. In 11:13 we have the faithful spirit. 16:18 we have the haughty spirit. 16:19 and 29 and 23 we have the humble spirit. 16:32 rule his spirit. So one's spirit is in fact ruled. Whether one has a haughty spirit or one has an humble spirit, or whether one has a faithful or unfaithful spirit, it's all ruled. We rule that. All right, it's not that we are set a certain way and there's nothing we can do about it. There is. There's always something that is inside. It's all inside our ability to change, either for the better or for the worse. Now, 17:27, calm in spirit. 20 verse 27, spirit of the lamp of the Lord. 25:28, rule over spirit. So that goes right back to rule his spirit in 16:32. So here we see by sorrow of the heart the spirit is broken, that one can come to a point, and it's a way of understanding what you may be going through or what someone else may be going through. That there is such sorrow that everything is wrong in this life now. Nothing is right. There was something that was told me many years ago, and it was by an older preacher. And he said, this year, you may have the best year you've ever had in your life. Things are going well. Everything is good. This has happened. That has happened. Or everything's just been going it couldn't be any better. Nothing really tragic, nothing really bad has happened during this year. He said, you may be having the best year you've ever had. But he said, in the congregation, somebody will be having their worst. Somebody will be going through something you're currently not going through. And you need to understand that. You need to understand that there are folks that they don't share the same joy or the same merriment or the same a merry heart as you might be at this moment, this cheerful countenance. You may not have, you may have that, but they may not at this moment. And you have heard folks say about someone who died. It's not everybody, but someone who died, of where they say he just gave up, or so it seems like she just gave up. And I think there is something to that someone just lost their will to live. It's not that they committed suicide. It's just that they didn't want to stay any longer, and they were at that point of where they just they lost that, whether a broken spirit or something else, but they just gave up. Now, verse 14, and going here from 13, 14, 15, we have mentioning of the heart. Verse 14, the heart of him who has understanding seeks knowledge, but the mouth of fools feeds on foolishness. So the heart of him who has understanding seeks knowledge. If we come down to verse 28, still in chapter 15, the heart of the righteous studies how to answer. Okay, that goes right into the heart of him who has understanding seeks knowledge. It's a deliberate act. And it's not that of trying to just do something, say something impulsively or do something impulsively, and to have some kind of conundrum, some kind of problem. In the middle of a trial, something has come up where you're trying to maybe help somebody and you don't know how to answer that person. The heart of him who has understanding seeks knowledge. You look. You look to see what's the answer. You look to see it. You don't just go by what may be popular sentiment or what may be, just something spouted around by people who really don't know. You may not know that, but they really don't know. You go and you seek God's help. You look for knowledge. Let me give you an example. It is someone that we knew years back, and we got word about it. And she asked, it was a young lady, she asked somebody, she had fallen away from the church. She asked somebody, what do you think happens after death? That's a big question. You're just going to ask anybody that and take their advice? That's not a wise thing to do. You're going to ask that question to anybody, and whatever they say, okay, well, and take their advice. And she said, what do you think happens when you die, after death? And the answer was, and this was coming from the parents, the answer was, this news I mean, your energy goes back into the greater energy. All right? You go back into like this force, this life force that's beyond us. And she accepted that and she committed suicide. Okay? That is getting the wrong answer. That's getting the wrong answer. And you don't just take a massive step like that. That's the biggest step you could take. You don't take a step like that with just somebody's little idea and they don't know. It's as simple as that. How did this person become an expert? How did their idea have anything to do with reality? It doesn't. It doesn't. This person could have just spouted off anything and may just have made it up at the spur of the moment. Just because knowing that it just sounded good, perhaps. But you don't do that without seeking knowledge. The one who has an understanding heart, the one who has a heart that wants knowledge, is going to seek that knowledge. And who knows everything? It's God. Not your best friend, not the wisest man in the village. It's not anybody in the village. It's God who knows everything. Now, why would you trust somebody to give you an answer obviously they cannot know? Have they witnessed this firsthand? No, they have not. They have not died and come back and able to tell you the truth. That's not happened. Why would you trust them over God? I think we have the answer in this. But the mouth of fools feeds on foolishness. And we have that of the going back to our first verse, nor will he go to the wise. The first verse, that we started with, which is verse 12. Nor will he go to the wise. Why not? It would have been better if she had gone to her parents, because at least then her parents could have given her a better answer than that. They could have given her a better answer than that and saw where this might be leading, and then put the subject of, you don't need to, the direction you're headed, you need to reconsider very quickly. But now we come to verse 15. All the days of the afflicted are evil, but he who is of a merry heart has a continual feast. All right, now the first part of this is those who are afflicted. And this can happen to anybody. This isn't just for the fool or just for the scoffer or just for the wicked. It's anybody. We can see Christ being very accustomed to grief. And he is afflicted. And we can also see others like Job, that there are problems, there are trials, there's grief, there's difficulties. And that we can see someone like Christ in the garden. He has the weight of all human souls on top of Him. He has the weight of the salvation of humanity on top of Him. And it all rests with Him having the sole responsibility. And it's not going to be an easy task. It's not something that He could just wave His hand and it's done, because that's not how it was to be done. That's not it at all. He had to go to the cross. And He is sweating profoundly. And what are His friends doing? He has apostles with Him. What are they doing? They can't even stay awake. Obviously, they don't see the same, they're not in the same grief as He is. They don't have the same concern that He does. It's all on Him. And so we just, all the days of the afflicted are evil. This is not necessarily moral evil. This is speaking that of just things that are bad. You ever had a bad day? Have you ever had a really, really bad day? And where nothing was right. And it seemed like that 2 steps from the grave today. And that it just nothing was good about that. But he was of a merry heart, has a continual feast. Okay, now we want to match this up with verse 17. Better is a dinner of herbs where love is, and we discussed this last week because it matched up with another verse from last week. But better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a fatted calf with hatred. All right, so here someone who is merry of heart, has a continual feast. But that doesn't mean a literal feast at all. It just means that there is this merry heart and the rest doesn't really matter. All right? You've seen them. I've seen them. You've probably been there. I have been there. Of the 2 young people in love. All right? And maybe they are newlyweds. And you have the others saying that they're just living on love. They got nothing else. They're living on love. And it seems as though nothing bothers them. Where the inconveniences they have, that doesn't bother them. There's very little in the refrigerator. At that point, that doesn't bother them. They live with it. And they have very little furniture, very little in material wealth, but they're okay. Because you've got this merry heart that is there. And that there is just this continual feast. It's okay. And you have little hardships, just don't interrupt deep joy. They don't, because they're just seen as minor little things. As minor little things, and it doesn't interrupt. And they're not going to be bothered by such things, because they have that merry heart. And some folks seem, and I admire them greatly, seem to be always of that merry heart. Every time you see them, and there was another preacher. I went to go visit him. I was going through the town where that congregation was. I was going through the town, and I knew he's probably at his office. So I thought, okay, I'll go visit. So I went to visit, And I asked him how things were going, having no idea. All right, I'm just asking out of being politeness, not that I think something bad is going on, tell me how it's going, because I didn't. I just said, how are things going? And he smiled, and he said, through that smile, it wasn't sarcasm, it wasn't a sarcastic smile. He said, it couldn't be worse. But he still had that smile about him. That, here is someone who's just naturally joyful. Here is someone that it can't, according to him, it can't be worse. But he's still plugging along. And he's still okay. And he's not going to let it drag him down. Now, no doubt it was having its effect on him, but he was determined to be buoyant. He was just determined to be, and I tell you what, he was very buoyant. And but it's just some folks, and like I said, I admire them, that they always seem to be in this cheerful sort of mood. That sure, the life has knocked them down, but you can't control what life gives you. You can't control it. Things just come out of nowhere. But it's how you respond to it. That's the only thing you can control. And I remember learning this when I was a child, small. I was on a playground with just a whole bunch of other kids. And there were older kids there. And the merry-go-round, the older kids were spinning that thing really fast, which was fun until I fell off. Okay, and I went tumbling off. And all of the older kids, there was this gasp and coming around, and I was about to let off a wail when I thought, actually, I don't have to. I don't have to cry at this moment. I can just not. And there was like this sigh of relief from the older kids of, oh, good. But I realized I had a choice. I could respond this way, or I could respond this way. And it was the first time I ever realized it, that you have a choice in this. Now, sometimes it's so bad that it's going to be. You're going to be afflicted. You're going to have an emotional response. You're going to. But how do you then, pick yourself up, or just what's the saying? Would rather curse the dark than light a candle. Maybe I've got that backwards. Anyway, no, you don't curse the candle. But someone who'd rather curse the dark than light a candle. All right? That they're in a bad situation and they'd rather just sit in that bad situation instead of just making even a minor improvement. Just doing something better. Okay, now, but a merry heart has a continual feast. Now, we come to verse 16. Better is a little with the fear of the Lord, and this goes with 17 too. Better is a little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure with trouble. All right, having little but love and the Lord, because that comes better as a dinner of herbs where love is. Having the fear of the Lord means you have the Lord. All right, you've got Him. He's going to be on your side if you have the fear of the Lord. And how many other things are there concerning the fear of the Lord? Knowledge begins there. Wisdom begins there. That's in two places in Proverbs and also in Psalm 11 verse 10. You have fear of the Lord prolongs days. You have a strong confidence. Fountain of life leads to life. Riches, honor, and life. All that with the fear of the Lord. Every bit of that. And better's a little with the fear of the Lord. Well, he who has a merry heart has a continual feast. All right, that fear of the Lord, that whatever happens, you've got God on your side. Is that not worth something? And you've got the treasures of the Lord on your side. Whereas than great treasures with trouble. And this would be material wealth with trouble. How is it that millionaires can commit suicide too and will? How is that? How is it then we're in the days of billionaires now? How is it that billionaires are not the most happiest people on the earth? Because they're not. All right, I don't know them all, but it's not the billions that makes them happy. That brings a different set of problems. That brings a different set of problems. You know, I came to this building, and this may surprise you, but I didn't need a bodyguard. Well, Catrice is mine, but I didn't. Don't mess with me because I got her. But I didn't have to have a bodyguard. I'm not worried about anything like that, and perhaps I shouldn't be broadcasting this as though anybody couldn't guess that already. But the fact of the matter is, I don't have those worries. And all right, as one might think, $1 billion, surely you wouldn't mind that. Well, okay, but there are problems that come with it. There's a ton of problems that come with it. And than great treasure with trouble. Okay? And which, we just have to ask, which is the greater treasure? The material wealth or the wealth that God gives us? And there may be some lackluster things in there. That you don't have the most expensive items, you don't have the most luxurious items, or the most luxurious home, or the greatest car on the earth. You don't have those things, but having the fear of the Lord, well, there is life there. Is that not worth something? There's wisdom gained there. Is that not worth something? There is love and there is peace. There's all those things. And that is worth something in this. And we come to 17 again. Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a fatted calf with hatred. Here is this luxury in the house of hatred. What good is it if you have a home? Well, actually, it's not a home anymore. It's just a big house. And there's no love in that house. There's nothing but hatred in that house. What good is it? And let's just pile on some more luxury and some more money on top of it. Did that help? No, it didn't help it at all. It didn't solve anything. Not the big problems. It didn't solve it at all. But it's better to have just this dinner of herbs, just things that are, this would be a very lowly dinner. Things like, and the first thing that came to my mind is poke salad. I don't know if you've ever had poke salad, but you don't get more basic than that. It's a plant that grows in this area. And there's a trick to it. Never ever eat it raw. It's got to be cooked. All right, but it grows wild. All right, I got to pull them up. I don't eat them. Maybe that's snobbery on my part. Actually, no, I just don't like it. I've had it before. I just don't like it. But they're weeds, and I have to pull them up. But it's better to have a dinner that is a dinner that just speaks of poverty than where there is love, than that fatted calf where there's hatred. And we spoke about this last week concerning that of kings and others who, it's not just limited to kings, but other people in places of power, where someone may want them dead and somebody might want to poison their food. All right, well, there's your house of hatred right there. And with kings, such as with an Absalom, the son of David, wanting to kill David. I mean, that was his intent. It was to take the throne, not with David still alive. It was to take the throne and then kill his father David. That was the idea. And David, truth is, David had more mercy on Absalom than Absalom ever would have had on David. And never would have shared that same kind of mercy. Now, Absalom died, but not at the hands of David, actually contrary to what David wanted. But wiser men, and I do mean wiser men, killed Absalom. They're not having it. This guy is. But here you have that home of hatred, or that house of hatred. There it is. And where you have the sword will never depart from your house. That's not good. That's not good. Now we'll just do verse 18, and then we will wrap it up for this morning. Verse 18, a wrathful man stirs up strife, but he who is slow to anger allays contention. All right, 26 and verse 21 states, as charcoal is to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. 22 and verse 10 states, cast out the scoffer. Cast out the scoffer, and everything seems to be better. Things begin to calm down. But a wrathful man is going to stir up strife. That's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to do. He wants to divide people up. He wants to gain some kind of influence, manipulate people, and to whatever it is that he wants them to do, to rile them up, and if in whatever he's got to say, he's going to say it. And whether it is dividing them against somebody else, which usually is going to take place, but he's got to say something and do something, and things get stirred up. And it is a mob is a frightening thing, because a mob has no collective conscience. A mob doesn't go about conscientiously. A mob just does. And who knows what the limit's going to be. Will there be deaths in this? Probably. Is there going to be destruction in this? Probably. Is this going to last for a long time? Well, if you killed people, it's going to last for eternity because you killed somebody. All right? And that is a wrathful man stirs up strife. That's the sort of strife he wants. That's what he wants. And of course, it's like igniting a fire, and you're not in control of the fire anymore. The fire is on its way. You just lit the forest, and the wrathful man just steps back and enjoys the scenery, enjoys what he did, but he's no longer in control of it anymore. It just goes. And but he who is slow to anger allays contention. Keeping the lid on. Being calm and cooling things off. And we will stop there this morning. I want to thank everybody for being with us. And hopefully we can continue next week. Thank you.